Someone in your small group mentions their therapist. Casual, like mentioning a dentist appointment. And for half a second before you can stop it, something in you quietly recategorizes them. Not hostile. Just a flicker. And then a second thought shows up that you like a lot less. Because you've thought about therapy yourself. More than once. And every time you talked yourself out of it before you even got to the part where you'd have to tell anyone. You didn't talk yourself out of it because it was expensive, or because you didn't have time. You talked yourself out of it because some part of you was convinced it would mean something. That you'd be outsourcing your inner life to a framework built by men who didn't believe in God, handing your soul over to a system that starts from the assumption that you're the highest authority in the room. That's not a small fear. It's not the same as being embarrassed. It's the fear that you'd be letting something in that doesn't belong there. That fear isn't stupid. We probably all know people who feel that way. Maybe a lot of people. I know a guy, Pastor Greg, who spent 15 years telling his congregation that real Christians don't need a therapist's couch. We'll get back to him. Here's what this video is not going to do. It's not going to tell you to go book an appointment. It's not going to tell you therapy fixes everything, because it doesn't, and anyone who tells you it does is selling you something. What it's going to do is take the verse most people use to justify the fear, the actual verse, and ask whether it's saying what we think it's saying. Because if it isn't, the cost of getting this wrong has been higher than anyone's willing to admit. Let's start with the verse itself. Colossians 2:8. See to it that no one takes you captive through hollow and deceptive philosophy, which depends on human tradition and the elemental spiritual forces of this world rather than on Christ. That's not a soft warning. Paul is telling a church to watch out for something that can take them captive. That word matters. He's not saying be a little careful. He's saying this can own you if you let it. So if that's in the Bible, the instinct to be suspicious of secular frameworks isn't paranoia. It's obedience to a real warning. But here's the question nobody asked before applying that verse to a therapist's office. What was Paul actually warning the Colossians about? Obviously, he wasn't writing to people debating whether to see a counselor. He was writing to a church getting infiltrated by a specific teaching, one that claimed you needed secret knowledge to really access God, that physical reality was corrupt and only hidden spiritual insight could save you, that Jesus alone wasn't sufficient, and you needed this extra layer on top of him. That's what hollow and deceptive philosophy meant in that sentence. A direct competitor to the gospel. A different way of being saved. A psychologist helping someone understand why they snap at their kids when they're under stress is not offering a different way of being saved. They're not making any claim about your soul at all. They're working on a different floor of the building entirely. That's the category error. We took a warning about competing salvation and applied it to a completely different kind of help, the same kind of help we don't think twice about anywhere else in life. Which brings us to the second thing worth seeing clearly, James 1:17. Every good and perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of the heavenly lights. Every good gift, not every gift wrapped in a cross, not every gift that quotes scripture. Every good gift, full stop. If that's true, and James certainly wrote it like he meant it, then the question was never, is this secular? It's, is this good? Those got treated like the same question for a long time, and they're not. Medicine treats the body. Psychology treats the mind. Theology addresses the soul. Nobody accuses a surgeon of replacing God when he sets a broken bone, because we already understand that the body has its own category. We just forgot the mind has one too. Jesus himself said, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, it's the sick. He used that category approvingly. He didn't flinch at it. So if the line was never secular versus sacred, and it was always good versus harmful, a therapist who actually helps someone carry what they're carrying isn't operating outside what God provides. They're inside it, whether they know it or not. Last piece. Nehemiah 4:9. The wall is half built, the enemies are circling, and here's what the text says they did about it. But we prayed to our God and posted a guard day and night to meet this threat. Notice the order. He didn't pick one. He prayed, and he posted an armed guard in the same sentence with no apology in between. Nobody in that text accused him of not trusting God enough because he also built defenses. Nobody said real faith would have meant skipping the guard. The prayer and the practical action sat right next to each other like that was obviously how it worked. We added the tension later. The Bible never asked us to choose. I told you about Pastor Greg. 15 years, same message, every time it came up. Real faith doesn't need a couch. He believed it. He wasn't posturing. And underneath all of that, for almost 2 years, something in him had gone quiet that he couldn't explain to anyone, including himself. Not sad exactly, just flat. Sunday mornings felt like a performance he used to mean and now just executed. He prayed about it the way he prayed about everything that bothered him, and nothing changed. He told himself it was a dry season. Everybody has dry seasons. He told himself it would pass if he just pressed in harder, prayed longer, fasted again like he had in his 20s when everything felt easier. It didn't pass. It got quieter, which scared him more than if it had gotten loud. What finally moved him wasn't a crisis. It was his wife asking him, gently, when he had last felt anything at all. He didn't have an answer. And somewhere in not having an answer, he realized the thing stopping him from getting help had never actually been theology. It was fear wearing theology's clothes, and the theology had just been useful enough to keep wearing. He found a Christian counselor 2 towns over so nobody from the church would recognize the car in the parking lot. He told me later that the first appointment felt like defeat. The 4th one felt like air. He didn't stop believing what Colossians says. He just stopped believing it was talking about this. So here's where that leaves you. The fear you've been carrying, the one that made you talk yourself out of it, was never really about Colossians 2:8. It was never really about protecting your faith from contamination. It was fear, and it borrowed a verse to sound like conviction. Once you see that clearly, the decision gets simpler. Not easier, simpler. The warning against worldly wisdom was never about keeping God's people away from help. It was about keeping false teaching away from the gospel. Somewhere along the way, those got switched, and people have been suffering for the difference ever since. There's another feeling a lot of people carry that we haven't touched yet. The sense that the whole culture around you has quietly turned, and you're the strange one now for believing what you believe. That's not paranoia, and it's not supposed to make you defensive either.